Hello, I'm Matthew Hounslow, a solution architect at Amplifi, and today I'm going to be talking about data quality best practices. Within data quality best practices, I'm going to talk about 3 ways to handle transformation and validation. There's a lot of ways to do transformation and validation in Enterworks, and this is by no means exhaustive, but I'm going to talk about kind of a before, middle, and end. We're going to transform and validate data before it enters the system, transform and validate that data when it enters the system, and in response to an event, such as an approval or some other triggered event. So the first example is file transformation. This uses a scheduled import in a simple repository. It defines transformation rules that occur before the data is loaded into repository records. It can handle things like conversion of file types and coding. It can validate up to 4 specific columns with defined values. It can also validate that no nulls exist. It can allow for simple transformation, or you can use regex to perform more advanced changes, and also allows for header replacement, date changes, and decimal truncation. Some of the pros of file transformation are that it ensures the data entering the system is already scrubbed and ready for further enrichment. It can define rules and transformations for specific upstream systems, able to isolate requirements to a single configuration. And it produces a cleansed file and maintains the original file for easy comparison. Some of the cons, though, are moderate complexity and configuration. It does require that the inbound file is consistently formatted. It's limited to a handful of columns that can be, quote unquote, pre-validated, and requires multiple components to configure. Some of the other advantages of file transformations is that being that it's a scheduled import, you can handle, or you can manage lots of them, kind of lots of them all at once. You can manage them one for each client if you have suppliers bringing data into the system. Each one can have their own set of rules, own set of transformations, and if any of them change, it's pretty easy to update them. Next one, this is making edits and validations to the records as they exist in the system, or when that data enters, is using business rules. And in the context of Enterworks, business rules refer to a suite of validation tools, pre and post transformation components, and allows for the writing of custom business rules to meet those needs. Business rules can perform numerous advanced calculation, validation, and transformation tasks, and can be considered the backbone of most client data quality methodologies. And it ensures that data quality standards are maintained as internal users work in the system. Business rules are probably the most common way to handle data quality in Enterworks. Pretty much any client, any user of Enterworks has seen and ingested a business rule at some point. Some of the pros are they're very reliable. They don't rely on any scheduling. The configuration of the rules is all in one place. The majority of rules are simple enough, and the UI is clear and concise to allow for simple self-management of those rules. The selection of existing rules is robust and can meet a variety of needs. And validation messaging to the user can be customized to fit business language and terminology. Some of the cons, though, are some transformation rules require special attention to the security settings of users initiating them. All rules trigger on save, which means that limited capability to sequence those rules or trigger those rules conditionally. And shifting requirements can make new rules difficult to fit into the existing rule set. The last one I'll talk about is EPX workflows. There's a wealth of knowledge on EPX workflows, and they solve a lot of problems other than just this, but just focusing on data quality today, I'm going to talk about EPX workflows. It's a robust workflow component that can be molded to just about any scenario. It can be scheduled, event-driven, or manually submitted. There's a huge wealth of documentation that exists for both partners and clients on how to configure and customize it. New technologies are released regularly. Some of the pros are, it allows for complete control over how, with, when. Let me start that part over. I said with. EPX pros and cons. Some of the pros are, it allows for complete control over how, if, and when the data will be transformed and validated. It can perform data quality tasks in a very specific sequence, and it's easily adaptable to new and changing business requirements. Some of the cons, though, can be considered more complex to configure than other solutions. Access to the modeler is separated from the main UI, And then manual submission can cause bottlenecks if users are not diligent in completing tasks as needed. In summary, file transformations ensure that data quality by protecting system data from inbound updates. File transformations, in addition to the multitude of other preprocessors, can reject bad data so that it never makes it into the system in the first place. For business rules, this maintains data quality by enforcing rules and requirements every time a record is saved. It gives users a visual representation of bad data and allows for a more strategic method of cleaning data and discovering new requirements. For EPX workflows, it supercharges data quality by defining exact requirements and forcing business users to review and approve data, or by leveraging a huge library of customizable tools to perform any complex validation or transformation of data. But there is more. This really just scratches the surface. There are a number of ways to maintain and manage good data quality practices in Enterworks. Things like change notification, data quality scorecards, dependent scheduled imports and exports, pre-staging repositories, syndication templates, and a whole lot more. Thanks.